we've noticed here is a bigger police presence in our neighborhoods. And Lane's actually seen them sitting. We're on like a corner lot across from us. We're not on the lake, but across from us is a lake. So there's houses along the lake, but it dead ends into property there. It's now an empty lot, but we're getting ready to build something, I'm sure, really big on the lake. But there have been police cars sitting right there. Like Lane's seen a couple of them sitting there. We've seen more patrolling the neighborhoods, and I'm like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, are they aware potentially, this is what comes to my mind, are they aware potentially that illegals are being dropped off in our area? I don't know, because at one of the nicer gated communities, they had a situation where some illegals broke into one of the homes that was not empty, but the people weren't home. Mm-hmm. And what they were doing was they were flying drones over to see which homes didn't have people in them. Okay. And then they would go into those homes. One of them got caught, which is why they know, that they're an illegal.
I started watching an interesting, Ben Shapiro has a new series on the Daily Wire. You have to be a Daily Wire member to be able to watch it, but it's called the Biden, what's it called? Okay, it's called The Divided States of Biden. And so he's got a new episode coming out about Philadelphia and the homelessness and the drug problem, the fentanyl problem there. But the one that's currently out is on the southern border. And so I started watching it yesterday, and he said, you always see Texas. Texas is the border that people are always talking about. You never hear about Arizona, where there are tons of illegals coming through. So he went to the Texas border and spoke to Border Patrol down there. And I'm about halfway through it right now. I was listening to it at work yesterday, but the Border Patrol agent said, he said that with Biden in office, Trump had it where they had to stay in Mexico. They had to stay in Mexico until they could prove their asylum. Biden opened the border, and as soon as they say, I'm afraid to go home, and that's all they have to say, and there's a big sign up that says, press this button and a border control agent will come help you. That's all they have to say. And he said, people think that we're transporting them to other parts of the country because it's a spiteful thing. He said, but we don't. He said, but as soon as they enter the country and tell us that they're afraid to go home, we have to let them go. They're not allowed to hold them in custody. According to current law, it doesn't matter. So I get why they're doing it. I get why they're busing them to other places. They're just gathering, throwing them, So that's been, and then he interviewed this one woman who had an illegal alien, and she was such a beautiful little God-fearing woman. Her son, her 18-year-old son, was brutally murdered by an illegal alien who he had given a ride home from school before. And the kid wanted his truck. And I mean, he brutally murdered this young boy. And the woman went to meet this illegal alien guy and forgive him for what he'd done, because her son loved Jesus and knew Jesus and would want her to forgive him. But it was so emotional listening to these stories. And I know that we have crazy killers here in America, but that are citizens, but it's just, there's so many gang members and cartel coming across that border now. It's just, I don't know. There's no control, and they don't want it to be controlled, and that's the scary thing.
I know, it's true. Because we have had people dropped off in our area, in neighboring cities. Yeah. And from what I've heard too is that every state is a border state. So don't even think that you're not part of the border situation.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we all are going to be affected one way or another. Well, our tax dollars are paying for them.
Right.
And, I've heard too that they've gone into the airports and there's people sitting there with plane tickets to go to, they're asked, where do you want to go? And they're given plane tickets to go along with the money and the phone and
Yeah.
the whatever else. So,
and now our
I don't know.
stupid future governor Newsom is wanting to extend health insurance, which he's been trying to do that for a long time, but transgender surgery coverage for illegals in California. Yeah, that's the latest
Wow.
and greatest that I saw in California news last week, I think it was. Guess who pays for
I
that?
really wonder what is the percentage of people really that are looking for that? I don't know, because
Less
we
than
pay for
one,
it
according
too
to
in our
most
military.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. It's just such a loud voice right now. Just that whole movement is such a loud voice. And I think that's the hardest part. If you're a conservative Christian, especially conservatives, you know, they have their views, but a conservative Christian really struggles on it. I guess you kind of can't be a Christian and not be conservative in your values. Otherwise, you're not a Christian. But anyway, I think that's the hardest part, is because it's so loud and it's so everywhere right now. Just like the videos that I talked about that are on Netflix last week in our other podcast. And that's the hard part. And you know, you look at the number of people who are doing it and then regretting it within just a few years, and their bodies and lives are ruined. I mean, they can't move forward in a normal capacity anymore. So it just, for taxpayer dollars to pay for something like that, just because somebody thinks that that's what they want today without any counseling or any, I don't know. It's just
I think
it's just evil. It's just evil.
Yeah, I think I said too before, and it may have been us talking, but that the counselors are not even allowed to really counsel them.
I know.
They're not allowed to. They can ask questions, because I do have a Christian counselor that I've talked to, and she said she can ask questions, but she is in no way, shape, or form supposed to sway their decision on what they want to do. So they can get in trouble, they can lose their license, etc., if they do that. And she's done a lot of education on it, you know, and the health, just alone, the health issues that are created by having your hormones all in disarray, taking something that's, you know, the opposite of what your body is expecting, is going to cause issues.
I think what blows my mind about that particular statement, that they're not allowed to sway them in any way, the whole purpose of counseling is for a counselor to point out in inconsistencies in things you say, or, you know, really make things shine that may not be true today but were yesterday, you know, things like that. And if that would be considered swaying, then counselors can no longer do their job, period.
No, I think their hands are fairly tied, and she does ask the questions that kind of help them, you know, hopefully see, you know. So I don't know. She does the best she can with, you know, in her situation, but it's, yeah, I mean, it's scary when you're taking away basically a person's ability to reason also.
I'm curious, as a Christian counselor, has she put people on the hormones, or does she refer them elsewhere?
I think she refers them elsewhere.
Okay.
I don't think she does that. You know, so yeah, she's not, you know, for it at all. She's seeing the detriments from it. She's done a lot of investigation on it. She's got family members that are trying to go in that direction, and so she's, you know, really educating herself on that, you know, health-wise, what happens, etc. You know, I've seen different videos too, where, you know, a young girl who was, she's very outspoken right now, and I can't think of her name, but I know she spoke up in Florida, Tallahassee, and she's been coming out and just saying that, you know, she was led down the path to change. She went through the hormones, she went through some of the changes. I'm trying to think if she had her breast removed. I can't remember. But just the hormones alone, you know, do such damage. Her voice will never be the same. But she was a young teenager when she went through it. She didn't know, you know, what was going on. And she said she was sitting in a science class learning biology and then realizing those breasts were to feed a baby. And I think she did remove them because she's just like, I won't be able to ever do that. So why would she have that thought if she actually didn't believe she was going to have children?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, and she's now, like I said, she has reverted. She stopped, you know, taking the hormones. She's a huge voice out there speaking out against, you know, doing this with children.
Yeah.
Because children don't know. They don't know the ramifications of it. How can they?
They can't
make a decision.
That's what blows my mind. And I hear this argument all the time, and I agree with it 100%. You have to be 21 to purchase an alcoholic beverage. But at 4, you can tell your mommy and daddy that you want to be a girl or a boy when you're the opposite sex and get that changed. I mean, where's the logic?
I don't think logic is the thing.
No, it's not.
Again, I think we're in that battle of good and evil. And you know, I can take myself, who was a huge tomboy. I was out playing the sports. I'd rather have been out with the boys and playing football in the yard than inside playing Barbie and climbing trees. I had a broken arm to prove. You know, I fell out of a tree, you know, 12 feet and broken arm. You know, I would have rather done all of those things. So if you had come to me when I was 12 and said, hey, you know, you can be a boy if you want. And at that age, I might have said, well, heck yeah, I think that would be much better. You know, I mean, I wore shorts. I hated wearing dresses. I just, you know, I didn't have any inclination toward females. You know, I don't know that I had any inclination toward anybody at that point. I just wasn't, you know, thinking about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you'd come to me and asked me, I might have said, yeah, that might be a lot easier path. You know, guys have it so good.
Yeah.
So I could have been very impressionable at that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a girlfriend who her daughter was 8, I think, at the time. And this was, you know, at the beginning of this whole puberty blockers for children thing. And she had put a post up on Facebook. Her daughter is very athletic, as was she. I mean, when I first met this woman, I thought she was gay because she's just so, you know, super short, spiky hair and very athletic, and, you know, that very stick figure frame. And that's just, I thought that, and I've told her that since we've been friends, because I met her in 2006. But the point being is, her daughter is very much like her. She's very athletic. She's very tomboyish. Well, when this whole thing started, I don't know how, I have no idea how the conversation went, but apparently she said she feels more like a boy. And we had a phone conversation, and I was like, please, for the love of God, do not put her on puberty blockers. Don't go down that road. Just let it be. And she didn't. And now the little girl, I mean, this is 4 or 5 years later, she's still incredibly athletic, but she's still very much a girl, you know? So that's the thing, is these parents so quickly decide that they're going to just jump because it's the new fad. It's the nice thing to do for your kid, whatever. But it's selfish. It's selfish for the parent to look cool, in my personal opinion, and ruin their child's life. But I don't know. I have another friend who's gay. He's been gay his entire life. He says he's never once been attracted to a girl. He's never once thought about being with a girl. He's the only gay friend he's got. He's the only gay person he knows who's never just done it with a girl to get it over with and see what happens. And And even but he's conservative. He grew up in a Christian home. His mother wept when she found out he was gay because she knew that it's a sin. He knows it's a sin. But the point being, he even looks at what's going on in what he refers to as the queer community, because it's not, he doesn't go by all the letters. He looks at that as being so sensationalized and so in your face that he really doesn't want to be much part of that community. He won't go to pride parades anymore because it's about politics now. It's about this overarching ideology for what, I don't know. He's just, he understands today that what he knew as the gay community is no longer what is out there. And it's hard for him to watch, so many people that he knew and loved go down this crazy, evil path. And he's this guy who all he wants in life is a normal, what he would consider a normal monogamous marriage, family, whatever. And he's 40 years old. He can't see it in his future because of the world we live in today. And, obviously I pray for him to not be gay. I want him to see his mom and dad. But it's just incredible to talk to somebody who is in that frame of mind, but still carries such Christian and conservative values.
Yeah, no, it is. And he's not the only one I've heard that professes to be gay, and it just looks at this whole transgender thing as, I don't understand. And they actually don't want that associated with what they represent.
Yeah.
So because it's like it's about, like, you have your extreme right and you have extreme left. It's the extreme of taking it that extreme. So it's not understood by a lot of them. But I think there are also many, not all, are accepting. It's just because they're accepting of difference.
Yeah.
In that capacity. So and I mean we're taught to love, everyone.
We are.
But not to love what they do.
Yeah. But, love the sinner, hate the sin,
condone
right?
It.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So
I pray for our deranged president,
Well, we're supposed to we're supposed to pray for all of them.
Exactly.
Even if he's using our tax dollars to help pay for these things in the military and now wars, potentially, people coming across the border and in our schools, because there's a lot of schools that are also grooming children,
Yes. They really are. I would never put a child in public school today. There's no way.
I wouldn't either, and I know it would be hard. And I still say the best thing that ever happened, that ever came out of COVID, was parents waking up to what was going on in their schools.
Yeah,
because they saw it on Zoom and they saw what was going on. It was right there in their face. So that was probably the best thing that ever came out of COVID.
Right, which is why homeschooling grew 400% over the last so many years.
Yeah. It's grown huge. I mean, I think I mentioned that with, my daughter being a teacher in K through 5 arena, which is, that's a, typically, I mean, that's where they're going to homeschool probably mostly, at least start. So, she's gone from having to have another teacher come into the school when she started, whatever it was, 10, 11, I don't know how many years it is now. I'm just like, but to now she's got empty blocks.
Yeah.
Like there's days where she only teaches basically half a day. I mean, she does other things, but that's, yeah.
Yeah. Which sucks. The biggest part of that sucks, in my opinion, is your daughter's an art teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And art is not included in so many schools. Like, it's so rare to find electives like that today, and those kids are not getting the exposure to that unless they're going to a private art studio or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of times with the homeschooling, they'll have conglomerates also where families will come together. They might pay for an art teacher and PE or music or whatever and have that. I know that, so there'll be a bunch of kids that will come together for that, different families. There's also families coming together and hiring a teacher to educate their kids, which I think is amazing. I know in our area we have what's called Circle Christian School, and it's kind of I think a mishmash of, you know, you can send your kid there for different grades and different classes, and I don't think you have to go there full time. I don't know, but it's you know, something that they can get, you know, they get to a level where you can't teach them the science, you know, then they can go there. Okay. I don't know if they're doing, but they, you know, they also will have other things like art and, you know, for that. So, yeah, so there's different ways, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for thinking outside the box for different, you know, things right now, you know, in teaching children in that arena. I've mentioned it to my daughter as well. You know, it's like, you know, why don't you think about that? You know, that might be, you know, kind of I have a friend who, what she does, and she's done this for years, so this didn't come out of COVID. Actually, COVID crushed her business. And she said she's at about a third of her capacity of what she was prior to COVID. But she does, teaches gymnastics. So she'll go to the preschool, she'll go to after school cares, she brings all the equipment, and they do like a gymnastics class.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Most I know most of her kids, I believe, are probably elementary and younger, or to daycare and stuff.
No.
So
I love that.
Yeah, but she couldn't go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
During COVID, they wouldn't allow something like that, so it crushed her business. But she's building it back up and getting busier and busier.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that can come out of, you know, out of this.
Absolutely.
That are really great.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would love to see that turn of events. Although you do, I mean, schools are closing down all over the country because they don't have students in them anymore. And more of the teachers and principals are being exposed with OnlyFans accounts and, you know, drag queen paraphernalia accounts and just the whole gamut. So, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that parents have started to really investigate what those teachers, principals, and superintendents are actually about and expose them. And I'm grateful for that because, again, like we were talking about with Disney, where is the place that a pedophile would want to be most? It makes sense. It makes sense.
It does.
So
well, it's just like they usually live right near schools, elementary schools.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're not supposed to, but I mean, you can, if you don't know, you can go out and there are maps where you can see, you know, where pedophiles live closest to your neighborhood or whatnot. So that, you know, I mean, if you've got kids, even if you don't have kids, I think it's probably a good thing to know. I mean, because you want to, you know, you want to be aware about if you see any happenings.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. We had one that lived 5 doors down from us in our neighborhood in Colorado. So we were always on the watch because we had lots of kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we live half a mile from an elementary school, and I know, previously when I found that out when my kids were in school, I was looking to see.
Oh, wow.
Because it's scary. I mean, we're only half a mile from school, so you can't catch a bus. You're either, and I'd be afraid even to let them ride their bikes.
Absolutely.
Which is sad.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So we'd either walk them or drive them to school, and a lot of times they'd be in, before care and after care, so at elementary level.
Yeah.
Since we were working.
Speaking of pedophiles and speaking of people like that, I want to talk about real quick some of these more super liberal states. So if you're new, I am currently residing in Alaska and getting ready to relocate back to California in about 8 weeks because my husband is from there and we're going to go be closer to his family. I saw yesterday a post, and I haven't done my own research yet, but I saw a post that Gavin Newsom is looking to close down some prisons. And by doing so, a lot of pedophiles will be released back into the street. Murderers, rapists, whatever. Because these liberal states are really wanting to do this, they're wanting to do these early release programs for prisoners, regardless of what crime they've committed. So here is where I'm going to give you a call to action. And I know Sheri will agree with me on this. Please, please get involved in politics. If we are not working to shut programs like this down and stop these crazy liberal, far left politicians from making decisions like this, where we're putting other people's lives, especially our children's lives, in danger, then we're not doing our God-given right, our due diligence, and our good works to our society by trying to fight these things from happening. We cannot continue to stay in our shell. We have to fight. We have to come out and make a stand because they are winning right now, but we have the power to stop it, and we need to start exercising that power.
Absolutely. I think, one of the things I was thinking about this morning too is just like, you hear all these things like that, and for the normal person, it's like, how does that even make sense? How does it make sense that we're going to release people back out that have committed crimes onto the streets? There's so many things that are happening that they just don't make sense. Like, I sent you that article in California about them bringing in an illegal to be involved with the elections.
Yes.
Why?
San Francisco,
they can't even vote.
Figure. Yep.
Yeah. So they can't even vote, and it's like, but they're going to be involved in our elections.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make sense? And then we have other. Lane sent me this little thing about who's allowed to vote, and it says in there that in the national elections, illegals are not allowed to vote, or if you're not a citizen. If you're not a citizen, you're not allowed to vote. And then, but then it says that, local levels and state levels and whatnot, laws could have been put into place where they could vote. Why? Go to any other country. You can't. You cannot vote in any other country if you are not a citizen of that country. So why are we doing that here? It's like, nothing makes sense. And this is that upside down world that we're living in right now, we're that we've been told about in our Bible.
Yes,
that is going to happen. But it's like, I can't explain it in any other way except the demonic are trying to control what's going on in this world.
Oh yeah.
It is a good versus evil battle that we're in, and realize when you're seeing those different things and you're going, well, what the heck? We're in a battle. It's not guns and weapons and stuff. It's us, and we're in that battle.
Yeah.
And we need to be a part of that battle to stop it.
Yeah.
Do everything we can to stop it.
Another thing to point out too, because we compare the US to other parts of the world all the time. And when you look at other countries and the size of the US, and you really can't put China in there because China is a communism country. Russia is a communistic country. So they don't really count. They don't have any kind of a republic where they do any voting, even though they claim they do, they don't. Putin makes sure he wins every year, or every time they have an election. But anyway, the point being, we compare ourselves to other parts of the world. Well, our nation in and of itself is the size of many other countries combined. So you look at Great Britain, Great Britain would fit into California probably as the size of the country versus the size of the state here. So one of the things my husband's always pointing out to me, and I know he's right, is we want to govern our country, our whole country, the way other very small countries govern their country. And it's just not possible because we're separated by our states, right? So this is why it's so important to start at your local government. And what we're seeing is people who haven't even started at the local government trying to get involved in federal politics. And unfortunately, because of the way that things have swayed on the demonic side of things, their voices are making more and more headway. So we have to start at our local level, in your state, in your county. And this is where Sheri influences me so much because she's so active in her local politics. That's where you're going to get your voice heard the best if you're on the conservative side, and then it spreads and it spreads and it spreads. And it is spreading. It is. California politics have been really taking a turn on a local level with a lot of the indoctrination that's happening in the schools. Counties have come together and fought and won in court to get these pornographic books pulled out of their schools so that kids are not exposed to that stuff. They are winning, but you have to do it at a local level because on the federal side of things, that view is not going to change. It's just not yet, not until we can make that local change spread countrywide. So just keep in mind how big we are compared to other parts of the world. We're huge, huge compared to other parts of the world. And we are a republic. We have a lot of varying views on everything. So I won't call it.
That's where the state actually has more power than, the federal government.
Yes.
They can control things and keep things from happening. So it is important to, elect in people at your state level, at your local level, that are going to do the work for you, for what that they're in alignment with what you believe. And a lot of them will talk a really good game, and you really have to look at what are they really about. To see, are they America First people, or are they just talking out of the side of their mouth? Because it is hard sometimes to tell. I know in our area, and I don't know about where you live, but like even judges, it's hard to get information on them to know how to vote on them. And people are pushing for that information. So if I do see, I know there were people were mentioning different apps and stuff of maybe how you can vet these people, because they do need to be vet. And even in our local area, we've got probably one of our school board is, I think there's one conservative person on it out of 5.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, some of the books that we went to a school board meeting and it was just like, oh my goodness. It was like a zoo. And that the topic going on that night was going to create that situation, which is why we went, but to support people that they're getting up and talking. And whether you're going to get up and talk you can go talk at your school board meetings, you can go talk at your county commissioner meetings. They have time at the end generally that you can get up and voice, your opinion and what's going on and push for different things. But what I was going to say is the one conservative lady is leaving the school board, but she did find somebody to run for her place, which I was really glad. And he has come and spoken a couple of our meetings, so we've listened to him. And he's actually a police officer who's done all kind of work in our community with underprivileged children, and, you know, being a mentor to boys and guys, you know, at the high school level. So he works, he's coaching football and being a mentor, and Christian athlete, and part of that also. But so he's running, so that's good. But it's like, you've got to find people to go into these positions and vet them and make sure that they are really what they say they are.
Yeah.
And that, you know, don't just go in to vote. I went to poll worker. I'm going to be a poll worker again. My husband and I are. And I went to training on Monday. It's 4 hours of training. And this is kind of funny. But, you know, it's one way, you know, also to get involved, you know, and see what's going on in your community. You know, it's just getting to know, and don't go into, what I was going to say is, don't go into the poll and not have done your research. Yes, you have time to sit there and pull out your phone and research the individuals, but are you going to be able to find the information in that quick amount of time that you're going to want to be there? So try to do your research. If you don't know, you know, reach out to other people that have the same values, that maybe have done some of the research, or you guys sit down together and you each take a different race and research it and see, you know, who aligns with your beliefs. But yeah, so I did poll worker training for 4 hours, and then it's kind of funny, the supervisor of elections, who in our area is kind of corrupt, and there's some shady stuff that's gone on. I'll just say this, in 2020, he got more votes than Biden did and Trump did.
Oh my.
Just saying. I don't know. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, I don't know how that happens. But anyway, so he was taking snipes during our training, because he was only there for a little while, but he usually does the training for us. And he was taking snipes at people who are about election integrity.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. But ironically, he didn't do it, but one of the other ladies who was actually doing the training asked me if I would move up to assistant clerk of a polling place. And I was like, okay. Obviously you don't know, that I'm about election integrity. And she actually came out of Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale area, which is a suspect area for elections. So, and she worked in the election office there and was took a job with us. So I'm like, oh boy. But seemed like a very nice person. So I don't know. We'll find out. Yeah, I just thought it was ironic.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about amendments last week in the Constitution. This week we are covering more election-based topics. And I think it's really important that you vote your conscience. We said that last week. It's very important that you vote your conscience. And also just keep in mind that until we get that border under control, which is where we opened this whole podcast, until that border is under control, there are going to be a lot of people coming into our country and given the right to vote. And who do you think they're going to vote for if we don't make some changes? So keep it in mind. If you enjoy watching our economy explode or implode rather, and you enjoy watching our interest rates skyrocket where it's impossible to buy a house at a decent rate, if you enjoy paying triple the amount of money on groceries that you were paying 4 years ago, then you know what? You just go right on ahead and vote your conscience on the left. But if you would like to see some changes, if you would like to see some of the things go back to the way that they were pre-2020, I would encourage you to start doing your research and find people in your local community that share your values, because our country's imploding. And if we continue to let the administration that's in office right now run our country, we will not be a country in the next 4 years. We won't. That's the goal. That feels like it's the goal. I don't know for sure, but it definitely feels like it's the goal. So there you have it. Love your freedom, love your president, love your administration, and vote for who you know is going to give you that freedom. That's all I can say. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this podcast today. We hope you learned something. If you have something that you would like to share about what you know is going on at the border, what's going on in your hometown politics, please let us know in the comment section below, because that's the only way we can get the word spread. So again, we look forward to more conversations like this. I said last week, you're probably going to hear a lot of election and politics podcasts between now and the main election in November, and it's probably how it's going to go, because Sheri and I are both very passionate about seeing this country get back to its grassroots. So thanks for joining us, and let us know if there's a topic you want us to discuss in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you next week. Bye.